Uh,
Philippe, let me know when you can see it pop up on your side.
That's here we're live.
Oh. Still loading, still loading. And my internet's supposed to be better today. Oh, here we go. Perfect. Well, welcome everyone. We are officially live. And okay, let me minimize this so I can make sure. Perfect. Welcome to week 6 of United We Taste. Thank you all for joining us on this very momentous day for Portugal, for Luso countries everywhere. It's April the 25th. So let's do first a toast for April 25th, and we'll get into what that means to all of us everywhere. Andre, please, just have a glass.
Saúde.
Saúde.
Yes.
Saúde. Saúde.
Saúde.
Bota abaixo.
So we are on Portuguese time, and that is hilarious to say, but I think everyone I've started pretty much on time due to technical difficulties. Other things happen. This one is just because my dear friends needed to come into the building in style, but we're all here. And so I'm going to start with introductions, and then we'll go straight into some information about Freedom Day and the tasting. So first, I'm Cha McCoy, sommelier from New York City, currently living and paying bills in Lisbon, which I can't wait to get back to, but being quarantined in New York City with family. I also do wine experiences and countries as outside of Lisbon and Portugal, and also the host for the communion. So I'm going to flip it over to my co-founder for United We Taste, Philippe.
Hello there, I'm Philip. I'm calling you from Agda, a small town in the region of Bairrada. My passion for wine started when I was a little boy, watching and helping my grandparents doing some garage wines here in Bairrada. Today I work as a business consultant, and I also run a blog called Vinishima. And I'm very excited today because after 6 weeks in a row, we are now tasting Portuguese wines. So today is a special day, and also because it's 25 de Abril, which is Revolution Day, or Carnation Revolution, and this flower symbolizes that revolution. So instead of a bloodshed, we start giving this to the soldiers on that special day. And from that day on, it was known from Carnation Revolution. So that's our gift to the world from Portugal.
Thanks, Philippe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see. Rui?
Thank you. Yeah, here, Rui Ribeiro. I work for Sinister Family Estates, so I spend most of my time traveling across the US. Unfortunately, since March, I'm stuck in Portugal between Porto and Vila Real. Currently, I'm in Vila Real, and I'm going to be tasting a port with you, of course. And it's good, and thanks, Cha, for the opportunity, because it's always good to keep our brain connected with wine people, and particularly with such a great group of people representing wines from Portugal. So it's never, I always say that in the US, it's never too much to speak about Portuguese wine. So thanks for the opportunity. Great initiative.
Thank you, and thank you, Simonton. And I feel like Rui, what I was mentioning is to your team, I said, yeah, no, it's going to be heavy hitters in the room. We're talking about serious Portuguese wine today. So thank you for being part of the group. Pedro?
Hello, everyone. Cha, thank you so much, and Philippe as well, for having me for the third time here at United We Taste. I'm based in Lisbon. I am originally from Brazil. I've been living here in Lisbon for 6 years now, and today I'm familiar of a 2 Michelin star restaurant called Alma for Chef Henrique Sapessoa. And well, wine has been part of my life for a couple of years now, and I came to Portugal in order to get that wine experience and knowledge. And very well, already done vintaging, worked in wine stores. Now I'm working at restaurants. So I'm really honored to be in this fabulous panel with all these tasters and producers. Thank you so much, and look forward for the show.
Thanks for coming back, Pedro, and the beautiful Diana Silva. Diana?
Hi. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Sha. Hi.
We hear
We
you.
can hear you.
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Diana Silva, and I'm the producer of Ilha from Madeira Island. And it's a still wine, not a fortified wine. So it's important always to say this, okay? And wine, first of all, I would like to say thank you also to Sha and Felipe for the invitation. It's good to be on board of this magnificent people that are here, in fact. And so it's what I'm working for the wine business for more than 10 years, and I have been working in several things as far as the wine sector is concerned. And now I started my own project in Madeira, which is magnificent. And it's quite special to be here with you again, because we are it's very good to speak about wines and to talk about wines and all kinds of wine. And blind tasting is my favorite way of trying wines, because as I am from an island and from Madeira, as a still wine from Madeira, it's normally more the people have on their minds a thing. And so as a blind tasting, it's much easier to get to know if the wine is good and correct. And so thanks for the invitation. Cheers.
Well, I can't wait to taste your wine in real life and not virtually.
Yes. Let's try that.
Yes. Andre, my godfather. We have
How are you?
I don't know how else to maybe I should have saved you for last, but I learned that people like adopt godparents when they're like studying in Portugal. And so when during I think my second or third visit to Portugal, I was like, Andre, you're gonna be my godfather of Portuguese wine. And he said, okay, I don't he's like, it was a big job, but I gave him the title, and I always remind him of it every time I'm doing good and doing bad. I'm like, Godfather, what's going on? I need help. Andre, you laughing, but it's true, right?
I don't remember. Was I drinking? Was I drinking when I had that conversation with you? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
So I'm happy to have you on. So Andre, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, thanks for having me. My name is Andre. I'm Portuguese wine lover. I do a bunch of different things. I run a company called Adega that does consumer events and has just launched the wine marketplace. I write articles for a number of different magazines. I promote Portuguese wine. I would do anything for Portuguese wine to be more recognized.
Now he is the ambassador of pleasure of Portuguese wine, Pedro.
No doubt.
No.
I've been a couple of times to Adega. It's one of the best festivals ever. So
thank you, Pedro. Thank you. I hope we get. Thank you very much. I hope we get to do at least one of them or two this year. It's going to be hard. If we can't do it, we'll come back stronger next year and we'll do them even better. So we're here. We're not going anywhere.
Definitely.
Awesome.
Strong.
Yeah, June is the highlight. Last year we had the lobsters.
June was amazing. I'm not sure we're going to be able to make it this year. Even in terms of safety, is not the best of times to do a wine event. We're supposed to be enjoying, so we don't want to be all restricted and everything. But we have some interesting plans coming up to kind of replace that. So stay tuned.
Sounds
we'll
good.
be enjoying wine anyway, so should be fun.
And then my brother Bruno here in New York City with me, thugging it out in the epicenter of COVID-19. It's almost scary to hear. I feel fine walking around, but then you watch the news and people tell you you're in New York. The heart of. I'm like, oh my God, is that? So tell people about yourself, Bruno.
So my name is Bruno Almeida, Portuguese born. I was born and raised in Lisbon. I came to the US like by 2002 as a drummer. And of course, drumming and that kind of arts don't pay bills. So I started working in restaurants, and that's when actually I started my wine career and my wine vocabulary. I was just talking with Carlos Simões, our second master sommelier from Portugal, and we was just talking about this, that I learned that I cannot say crisp like in Portuguese, like to describe a wine. So every time that I go to Essência do Vinho, like for me to describe wine in Portuguese is really rough for me. But yes, so been here for all this time and working in Portuguese restaurants in the beginning, and then mostly I've been working in Italian and French restaurants. My parents taught me a lot of things about 25 de Abril, like the April 25th, because they were from Africa, they were from Mozambique and Saint Domingue Prince, and they were quite of guerrilla radio kind of stuff. So I was like 8 years old, and they'll tell me like I couldn't go to that place like 10 years ago or 15 years ago because of this and this and this, because we were young, because we were coming from the colony. So this is a very important day for me. Like probably I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the April 25th in the US and being a somm in the suit with dreadlocks and all that kind of stuff. So it was awesome. So, and thanks for having me here. It's a great pleasure. I've been working Portuguese wines for a lot of years and trying to be a great ambassador for these wines and teaching a lot of master classes in the US, and hopefully.
Thank you for that.
And Bruno, tell them, I don't think you mentioned you're the head somm in the restaurant that you're at.
Yeah, I'm the wine director and the only sommelier. So it's a one-man job at Tocqueville. Tocqueville has been open for 20 years in New York City. It's like an icon with a chef Marco Moreira, which is actually from Brazil. Pedro is a Brazilian born. So actually the daughter of Champalimau, she actually designed, so it was a Portuguese designer that designed the restaurant. So there's a Portuguese touch to it. My wine list goes from Greece to America, but I have Portuguese wines by the glass. I have quite a Portuguese wine section on the list.
Yeah, cool. Great. Cool.
Well, thanks, guys. And Bruno, you already started.
Bruno, sorry.
Yep.
By the glass, on Portuguese wines, you have whites and reds by the glass?
White, red, and sparkling.
Awesome.
Okay.
I have Vertis by the glass from Celso Pereira. I have, at the moment, I've been doing Soalheiro de Clássico. I've been doing Anselmo Mendes de Contacto, for instance.
Yeah.
And I've been doing like Baga Vadio. I did by the glass. I did Alfrucheiro, Paulo Loriano Alfrucheiro, just to tease people and to see that, like, I hate the fact when I hear like, oh, we cannot pronounce that Alvarinho, like it's totally wrong. If you can pronounce Zweigelt, if you can pronounce Gewürztraminer, you can pronounce Alfrucheiro, you can pronounce Tinta Negra, you can pronounce all these varietals. So I hate the perceived like, oh, it's really hard like to pronounce like these great varietals. No, they're not. So, but yes, but Baga is easy. Baga is easy.
Yeah, Baga is more easy, yes. But still,
now we can go right into it. Actually, you picked up what would be next. You talked about Carnation Day. Unless anybody else want to add some more texture to that history, we're gonna go right into some questions that I have planted for you all about the industry, because the title says the power of Portugal. So anything else on Carnation Day or Freedom Day you guys want to share? A touching story from Madeira. I don't know how it affected Madeira Islands versus being on the mainland.
Normally in the mainland it's always worse, you know. But I don't know, as far as the affection in Madeira, I must say that it was very important for Madeira, the Carnation Revolution, of course, but in fact we entered and we had a government for 36 years after the Carnation Revolution, so I cannot tell that that impacted so much, but still I was a huge supporter of the government, which is Alberto Jardim. But fact is that after Carnation Revolution we had the 36 years of the same presidents running Madeira. So, but it was very important because as far as mainland, so you know that for us to get all our products, to get food, so we need the food from mainland. So we don't have enough food enough of everything, of nothing in Madeira. So we need always to bring stuff from mainland. So it was important because of that, because after the Carnation Revolution, we get more and more things to Madeira. So, and it was much easier and maybe less poorest people that we found also in Madeira. So it is very important, our Freedom Day. It is also, it's something that we need to commemorate, all of us. It's
Just not at the parliament.
not at the parliament.
True.
If I can, may I?
Yes.
Yes.
Nacha? So it's really important. Like in, it's something that we tend to not to talk about, like about what April 25th did to the country, but of course it's a lot of great things, but like, of course it had its repercussions later on, like in the 80s, like, because for us, like in Portugal, I think the country totally opened in the 80s, and then we got all this money coming from the European community, and some people took it seriously and other people didn't. So then in the 90s, like I think the country totally seriously started to open, like open-minded, like immigration coming in, like people coming from Pakistan, from Romania, from Brazil started like to come. So I think a lot of things happened because of the April 25th. But regarding wine, I think it was super important in a way that certain regions were actually damaged because of April 25th, because of the revolution, which we see like a lot of the co-ops and what happened in Alentejo, for instance, like when we think about like something like Mochão, like what happened to Mochão, they barely had any wine, and they released like one of my favorite wines, the 83, 84, because they had to blend like 2 vintages because they didn't have enough wine, because wine was just like, just slapped. You go to Palmela, you go to Azeitão, like you see all these co-ops. You go to Colares, Sintra, like you see like a lot of changes happen for good, and some changes happen for bad, like because of the April 25th. So there's a lot of things about concerning what happened with this revolution.
And I think that that's something that needs to be explored on a much larger level. I think that, you know, for me, or I guess I'll start with myself because I'm the only one who's not born in Portugal. So I think that the people always ask me why Portugal. And so obviously I lived in Italy before, which I want people to like have some context. Like I've already lived in Europe. And so I was comparing it to my experience from previously living in Europe and learning about wines from what an Italian lens. And then what I saw from the time that I returned back to the States and where I saw opportunity. Andre and I are both engineers by trade. And I don't know if anybody else have a background in other fields besides drumming, et cetera. But when you look at from an engineering lens, we go from we always have this problem solver hat, like that we can't get rid of, you know, it's like ingrained with us, right? And so when you connect to that, to any industry, I realized when I'm in a wine shop working that, you know, Portugal represents, like, you lucky if you have 3 Portuguese separate producers, and you lucky if they, you know, from different areas outside of Douro. Like, so it was kind of like, I've realized it was an opportunity. I'm like, here's a whole country. I understand it's a smaller country, but people always talk of Portugal as being this very magical place, but it's the least understood, and people, and like you mentioned, Bruno, don't take the time to obviously even learn it, to break down the vocabulary, the words, etc. The same way, like in my case, don't have me speaking French to you and reading some of those chateaus. I do better pronouncing Portuguese grapes, but that's because that's what I spent my time to put into, you know? And so the title of this is The Power of Portugal. And I really want you guys to kind of think of, from obviously, what would you want Americans to know, people outside of Portugal to know? Where is the power in Portuguese wine? You can name a region, you can name a grape, you can name a producer, but where is they already think Portugal as a whole is like, you know, undiscovered. So it's not like, oh, what's this secret region that no one knows about? But where do you think, in order to take Portuguese wine to the next level in the next, I don't know, 3 to 5 years, who is it? Where is it? What is it? And you could be as, I guess this is supposed to be like a rapid fire kind of response. So trying to think of what's the first thing that come to mind to you all. Anyone can go first.
I would go with diversity. I think diversity is one of the things that what I've learned, for instance, with Italian wines. It's about the diversity. It's one of those countries that diversity of food, diversity of kingdoms, conquerors, invaders, like make Italy like so great because everyone just brought something to Italy in terms of food and wine. And I see the same thing with Portugal, but we went to Brazil, we went to Macau, we went to India, we went to Africa, and that diversity was brought to us. And I think that in gastronomy, in the food, in the culture, we bring something that is fairly unique in Europe that resembles a lot in the wine. And then we have so much diversity not only in varietals, but in terms of like what this varietal, like Aragonês, and what it does in testing as Ruiz in the Douro, like how Torino plays like all over the country. I think like that diversity like explains a lot in the wine and resembles a lot in the wine. So I'll go with diversity. That's what I tell my customers. And believe it or not, like, yes, I work like in fine dining and I have like probably a market and a demographic of people that actually, they might travel a lot, they travel a lot. But I see easily, I could tell you like probably like 30%, either they went, either they want to go, they want to come back, or they want to retire in Portugal. So like, I think there's a bright future, like not only for wine, but for everything Portugal, the cheeses, like the country, the people. I think we are very welcoming, and being diverse as a melting pot that Portugal is, that we are used to have like different perspectives and different backgrounds, like not only us, like in the colonies, a lot of friends of mine, they're white and they were born in Angola and they were born like in Cape Verde. So there's a lot of diversity in people. And yeah.
Anybody else want to take a stab?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. I think actually two things are, I agree with everything that Bruno just said, of course. But I think the two things can be added to that. One is Atlantic influence. And I don't just mean the regions that are, of course, near the oceans, of course, the islands, and of course, the whole coast of Portugal. But I mean how everything in Portugal is influenced by the proximity to the ocean. What we eat, how we behave, everything. If we actually dig deeper, we'll find out that the fact that we are in one of the corners of Europe, but next to this amazing influence of something that is at the same time, some of the poets will talk about how dangerous it was, how what we use the ocean for to get, to cross the ocean and go to discover some new land on the other side of the world. It's the influence is so big in our history that our wines are, of course, part of it. And actually, every time I try to explain what Atlantic influence means, we can just stay on the technical side, but we can also go to a deeper philosophical side. And I think people will get quite interested in understanding why Portuguese wine is so influenced, of course, by the Atlantic Ocean. But then, of course, the most important thing, even bigger than the ocean, is the Portuguese, the people. If you weren't with the group that we're talking here, we're all ambassadors, producers, sommeliers, whatever. We're all ambassadors. Shah, you're doing an amazing work. You fell in love with Portugal, and you're promoting and evangelizing the Portuguese wine industry. And actually, what Bruno said about diversity, about how we have all these backgrounds and how we are this melting pot. But actually, it's a very exciting. We're a blend of all these things. And this is one of the things that makes Portugal so rich in terms of culture, in terms of wines, in terms of everything. And every time one of these people goes outside of Portugal and takes with them this culture and wants to promote this culture, and like Bruno does a wine list where maybe before there were not a lot of Portuguese wines and now there's more Portuguese wines. And even if there were, he's doing a good job of promoting, or like everyone who spends their time working with wine and could be doing something else. We have to be thankful for all these people. And so the Portuguese wine ambassadors around the world, being in the wine industry or not, are the most important factor and the most exciting thing that we can see that is going to take Portuguese wine to the next phase.
Definitely. Thanks.
Here we go.
I have to add, if you don't mind, because Andrea just spoke about Atlanticity, and of course I'm in the middle of the ocean, so I would say Atlanticity for me as well. But more precisely, it's interesting that, and you know that the volcanic wines are getting to be the most special, or one of the most special wines that you can find worldwide, because there's only 6 regions of volcanic wines in the world. And in fact, we in Portugal, we have 2, which is Azores and Madeira. And so as well as we have 2 wealthy, or 2 rich, have a huge richness as well on the path of the fortified wines. We have the 3 most important fortified wines, or one of the 3, we may say, for us Portuguese, of course, the 3 most important fortified wines in the world, like Port, Madeira, and Carcavelos. So in the same country, so we have 3. Volcanic islands, we have 2. So we have special things. So we are a very small country, but we have diversity, as Bruno said, and our diversity is it's what makes us being a passionate country. We are like, and this is what, and people when tries Portuguese wines, when they come to Portugal, they really, I guess they really fell in love with us, because we are really a very humble people, and we have great wines, and we have a great history as far as wine is concerned. So since the discovery period, never forget that we were the biggest country in the world. We still are, we still are, as far as the humbleness, as far as the way of receiving people. But in the rest, in fact, we were the discoverers of the world, the explorers of the world, and we explore as well the wine. So this is what I wanted to add. We have special things as far as history and wine history, and we have to support more and more this history. And thank you, all of you, for doing that. I also try to do that. We have to be, all of us, we have to be ambassadors. We have always to support the Portuguese wines. So this is very good.
Let me just say something like that. It's really important what you just said, Diana, and I think we're going through times that we can sit down and rethink and revamp ourselves. I think all of us are doing this. Shah, you're doing that. Like, and what Andre just did with the Portugal Wine Week, like you were one of the first, like, okay, we need to do something.
Thank you.
So it's really important that winemakers, commissions, regions, Vini Portugal, ICEP, Ministério da Agricultura, like all of us, we need to sit down and realize what can we think, what can we do. So this is a great moment, and might be we should take this as an advantage right now and see like, okay, we need to do this. Perhaps we need to do some online training to people instead of going to the stores, instead of going to the restaurants, instead of like waiting for wine events to do like training. Like perhaps we can do this, and it's remarkable like, to see like Newport like in front of a camera right now, like Paul Oriano in front of a camera right now. If this would happen, like they won't realize like, actually, I don't need the marketing team to do this. My son is great with Instagram. He can do my Zoom, and my son is like my voice, he's my family.
All right, Bruno, you just fired like 10 people that work for you. You know, let's get rid of the whole team. Let's have my son just come on here. He's gonna do my IT. He's gonna do my marketing from now on because he's good on Instagram. So we're not gonna let Bruno talk anymore. Rui, you've been smiling as Bruno was talking about this. So, I mean, he kind of almost canceled your position. You just said, I want to fly to the US, tell people about the magic of Symington. He just said.
No. We just spoke of 4 months ago.
Yeah, it was in January or February, something like that. And so people that knows me and that see the time that I spend in the US, very often I use a sentence. I usually say that 80% of my time I sell port, 20% of my time I sell our brand. And there is a work that, and taking on Bruno's point, there is a work of being kind of an icebreaker that you need to do in a market like US. And you are based in New York, but if in New York, it's a market that is well aware of what Portugal is about when you compare it with Arizona or Idaho or something like that. So there is a common point, and I was smiling because what Bruno was saying, it's I clearly see where does it come from, but at the same time, it's super hard to convince people how important is that job. people react really well to tangible stuff. So the moment that you say you are going to buy this tank over here and you are going to be making better wine because you got this tank, people get it. If you need a new tractor or a new machine for farming, people will buy it. The moment that you say you need to invest your time, your energy, now it's the moment to show how passionate you are. So you say that you are passionate, so come over here and show us. So dinner, you are gonna see the people in the field. You are gonna work with sales reps. You are gonna be facing 10 sommeliers one day or in an event or so, and tell us why your wine should stand out against French, Spain, Italy, whatever. And this is not tangible, you know. You only get it if you are in the business, and that is the toughest part. And particularly, you get to see, and once you visit Portugal, and if you start seeing kind of the wine scene in Portugal, we are still, as a country, are still really attached to the domestic market because it's a plus. If you travel through Portugal, there is a huge, big chance that you are going to find a lot of people that they are third generation winemakers. I mean, if you grew up in a wine country, everyone used to make wine at home. So I believe that my county produces the best wine in the world. Oh, my neighbor, it's so, but mine is the best. And this is really helpful once you visit the country. So there is a cultural aspect that it's super strong and natural and authentic. So people don't need to make it up. But at the same time, that blocks a lot the communication outside because people don't see it as a need, you know. It's like, oh, it's like my wine, it's the best in the world. If they don't get it, I don't care. And to create an impression as a country, you need all those structures. You need, I would say that more than the structures that Bruno mentioned, I would say that it's kind of the sense of most producers of how important it is to be the icebreaker. And believe me, I work both sides, and today I'm going to be tasting a port with you guys. And as you can check, or as you know, a port has a very distinct position in a market like the US. A port is well known worldwide, but at the same time, we have wines from the Douro Valley. And recently, since 2 years ago, we started with still wines from Alentejo as well. And when the conversation comes to that point, it's completely different, you know. And people ask us, oh, what do you do in terms of red Douro wines or red Alentejo? We do the same thing as any little producer in the US. We show up, we present the wines, we try to engage people, we try to communicate what, in our perspective, is the distinctive point of that wine, and it's a never-ending job. The moment that you believe that you reach a plateau and you open the door of your winery and the wine will fly out of the window, that's big, super mistake, you know. And particularly when you think about a country like US, you know, in Portugal, we are a little country and everyone is so proud of his little region or little country or county. When it comes to the US, we are talking about a huge area with a huge diversity. The cultural aspect is completely different. The moment that you say something that it assumes it's common conversation for a wine connoisseur in Europe, you arrive in the US, you say exactly the same sentence and they go like, what do you mean? What is that? And those aspects are really hard to communicate. I would say when I come back to Portugal, sometimes they look at me and they think that I'm the dumbest guy in the company because I say that's not going to work. Oh, why do you say that? Because you need to create a common plateau, a common area where you can interact with people and take them from that common area and go up and up and up and up. And this is the most difficult part because it's not tangible.
I'm going to use that. Your answer is communication. I got Bruno for diversity. I got Andre for Atlantic influence and people. I got Diana listed for, now I forgot. That was
Atlanticity also.
Atlanticity also. Volcanic wines, Madeira.
Volcanic wine. She's saying that's to the microclimate of volcanic wines. And so Pedro and Philippe, I'm gonna let you join in on this. You gotta tell me what's your word. What's your thing?
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll take part since basically in the restaurant, I get more or less 90% of tourists. And usually I get the questions like, where in Portugal is it that is the wine region? I'm like, from north to south, all of the country. And the islands. And speaking of sizes, I compare, for example, the state of California is bigger than Portugal. California is Portugal plus tax in size. And we are Portugal is the second country with the most grape varieties. We just lose to Italy. So we have over 280 something registered grape varieties. And history. We have history ever since Romans, Phoenicians, Catholic monks. So we do amphora. We have a story from port wine. English families, they came back in the 17th, 18th century. So there is a lot that we can deliver in such a small plot of land. Is it also gastronomy? We have a variety of fish, seafood. We have a variety of fruits, vegetables, and also meats. So it's really, it is a really big melting pot. And for variety in wines, we have all that variety that can engage equally to any kind of food. So
history and diversity
that is untapped to the world, and we just need to scream it for people to know. But then again, if it gets too well known, we're gonna run out of wine. It's not that the wines are gonna fly out.
We're gonna run out of wine.
We gotta hold on, but we need to spread the word.
Well, then we start teaching about economics and price elasticity, right? The demand go high, then now the value of Portuguese wine is now not the $10 bottle range. Now it moves up to 15 and start competing with Village, Burgundy, and so now we can sell it for 20 just because it says Portugal. Forget who made it. They get it. You know, France gets away with it all the time. You know,
Why not?
So I don't think that's a bad problem, Pedro. But I'm on board with you with you know, I think we all know, all of us in this room know what the power of Portugal is about. How do we get other people know it to actually make that boost in the next 3 years? And of course, anything digital, the roles that Rui play, you know, with being the ambassador for in the US and other countries outside of Portugal. To believe it or not, probably not too many people thought you all were going to sound this clear speaking English. You don't know how many people tell me you speak English and working in Portugal. I'm like, yes. So you probably, just the fact that so many of you from different areas of Portugal are actually speaking English and it sounds clear. I think that alone is already probably blowing someone's mind watching this. Or they probably think you all like college educated and moved abroad and that's the reason why you sound like this. But I think that people don't understand this is also part of the Portugal way of life, the Portuguese way of life. And so I do know that hospitality of being welcoming to everyone, whether they're coming from China, whether they're coming from America. You know, speaking English is not for Americans' sake, it's for the sake of being a universal language that works with the most amount of people who are visiting Portugal, right? And so, so if you step away from the American gaze of it all, Portugal is at a better point or position than other Western, or let's say its competitors, Spain, France, or Italy, with being able to relate to others when they actually come to visit Portugal. So Portugal ends up being unique as a destination because of that as well. So that's my little plug for come visit Portugal. But just not be so scared of the language, because everyone here is willing to help you learn how to say the grapes and feel confident when you want to order Portuguese wine. So Felipe, to close out this question, are you gonna tell us what you think is gonna be the key to helping Portuguese wine for the next 3 years?
I think everybody just mentioned a lot of ideas that we could bring to the table. We spoke about diversity, we spoke about terroir and history, we spoke about history. I would just add another word to all on top of that, which is authenticity. So I think that is something that distinguishes us from the other countries and the other wine producers. I'm not going to enter here on this old and new world fight, but that's something that we should bring always to the table. These are authentic wines. We are proudly of that, and that's something that we should communicate better to the world. and bring people to Portugal and taste them.
There's no other country that can do brandies, sparklings, red, whites, fortified. What am I missing? Then other things like Bafada is another thing. Can someone like, of course, like France can do that, but there's very minimal countries that can do in a very small plot, just like Pedro just said, that can do all these things. Just think about Vinho Verde, like they do all these things. They don't do a fortified yet, but like it's amazing how the country can be, again, the diversity, like in a small plot, we just do all these things. And it's and I realized that when I went to Georgia. When I went to Georgia on a visit, on a wine trip, and I was sitting like in front of the Caucasus, and I'm just eating like pork kebabs, and I realized like we are all the same. And I'm among these Georgians, and of course drinking. They can drink, and they're drinking chachas, which is their grappa, their aguardent for us, and like we're on the same parallel, on the same latitude, and we think the same way, and that just brings you to mind like how great Portugal is, and sometimes we tend to miss it, like leaders tend to miss it.
It's a good point, Bruno. It's a good point, Bruno.
Especially in this day.
Georgian wine of the Saperavi grape variety. It was actually a Mukuzani, so it's an aged Saperavi. And well, never had it. First time I had it, I was in Russia with my wife. We drank it. I'm like, this is Dome. This reminds me of a Dome wine. So yeah.
It's a little bigger, a little more tannic. Like Saperavi, it's like 2 times the resveratrol, the tannin quality of a Syrah. And mainly when it's aged in amphora, it gets like the tannins go even higher. But Russia used to be the big market. It still is. But once they had sanctions with Russia, things just got like a little sideways, which was good for Georgian wine, because now we can sell to the US, now we can sell to Portugal, to Germany. So they opened up and not doing like a lot of the old school that used to be a little sweet, because that's what the czars wanted, like the sweet wine, like in everything. So things a little changed, but okay, Chacha, I think, take it. Before we start like.
I know. Too many Portuguese in the room. You never know what can happen.
I have a question for you, Cha.
Oh God, here we go. You know, the mentor always comes, right?
It's a very important question. How does a woman like you, with clearly good taste for countries and good taste for wine, end up wearing a shirt like that?
I knew it. I told you. I told you.
Whoever's watching and watch football, soccer, if you're American.
Perseverance.
Also, one of the reasons why we started late is because they got on me for choosing a team. Publicly. This is a public statement.
Great team, by the
way. I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take it as a good thing. I'm gonna say about this.
I'm on YouTube Live.
It's perseverance. Like that's a club that I have a lot of respect. I have a lot of respect for this club because I grew up in Lisbon, but I'm a diehard Porto fan because I have family in the north. But I have to say, like, being a sporting fan and not winning basically anything for 18 years says a lot about them. And the stadiums are always full. No, but it's patience. It's something that Portuguese winemakers, they need to start understanding one thing. Don't take me wrong, Diana, but I think Portuguese winemakers is still to understand, like, if they can, to have a little patience with the wine. If you have the space, if you have the monetary allows you to do that, let it sit. Let sit those Alvarinhos. Like, perhaps don't release it right now. Like, can you wait 2 years or 3 years? And that's something that I would like to bring to the table, mainly for you, Andre. Like how great Portuguese wines in terms of age capability, they are so amazing. It probably might be a little bit the future that we should start talking about, like the age capability of Portuguese wines. I think
so we'll rephrase the question so that everybody can answer it too. If you were, because I gave, if you've seen the California episode, I gave everybody a blank check. So everybody that was in the room, I gave them a blank check and told them, look, Bruno, I said, I was everybody's godmother. I'm Oprah, and I'm giving out blank checks to everyone here. And I told everyone to choose, well, in California, where would they invest they had to spend it on a vineyard. So where would they go, right? And this, just because of your question, I'm now going to ask you all, what grape would you, because everyone doesn't know your grapes, right? So let's say one grape. If I said you can plant anywhere in Portugal, but you have to pick one variety, one grape variety that you had to invest in. I'm going to give you the money to make sure that you, whatever, old vines, new vines, whatever you want to do. But what's the grape that you would actually invest in?
Encruzado.
Encruzado, Andre.
For
Next.
sure, for sure.
Next. We'll go back to why, but just rapid fire, tell me which grape, everybody.
Baga.
Baga, Pedro. Baga for Philippe too?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, well, yeah, of course, two Bagas, Baga boys.
Yeah, that's a really rough one.
It's difficult, yeah.
It's a really difficult one. But to be honest, like I've been falling in love with Sauzão. With Sauzão, I think it's going to be a big playmaker, and I don't know what you feel about it, Rui, but I think about the color and the tannin and the freshness that Sauzão is bringing to the table. I think it's great, not only the Dourvel, but Vinhão. I've been drinking Vinhão like for a lot of years. I've been introducing to barbecues.
Rui, what's your grape? Don't try to get anybody else to convince you.
If you ask me, like, first I would say probably Encruzado as kind of from the top of my head. Because as a wine lover from Portugal, I do believe that is a variety that has very unique characteristics, and I'm looking forward to see the behavior of that variety in other regions. And my second choice would be naturally Sauzão. I grew up in the Vinho Verde area, and since my first harvest as a cellar hand in the Douro, I got the experience of Sauzão between the two regions. I mean, between the Vinho Verde area and the Douro. And fortunately, Sauzão has been expanding in the Douro as well. And I think it's a variety that deserves a little bit more attention that I think will happen naturally in the future. It's already happening for us, but I think even in the markets, I see more and more people, even Vinho Verde Vinhão or Sauzão, which is the same, which is very hard to create a frame to present it to somebody. But when you do it with the right context, it's one of the most unique experience, and it doesn't compare with anything else, which is the key that we are all looking for in the wine world. It's finding something that provides or gives you a different experience or something very unique. And I think Sauzão, between the two regions, has that ability. It's interesting because lately I've been tasting some wines more based, or wines that have been sourced more in the Baixo Corvo, I mean in the western side of the Douro Valley, that have more of that Sauzão signature. They are more pronounced on that forest and a very intense color. And those wines, they clearly bring something very different to the table, which is the interesting part of it.
Thank you, Philippe. And I know Bruno probably feels happy that you just went on and added about Sauzão anyway.
No, I think it's very appreciated for a lot of people, and I think it's one of those grapes that would need but I totally agree. Like Encruzado, like even in Sauvage, like those grapes that can go like very like an oak, no oak. I think those are great grapes. My only thing with Baga, really needs the terroir to make it, otherwise can go really wrong. So it really narrows like places, at least in Portugal, to do Baga. That's the only thing.
The sky's the limit. I'm giving you a blank check. You're going to invest in any grape. So I just want to, no restrictions here. You can pick the perfect plot of land. Diana, which grape for you?
It's interesting because we picked the group. It seems like we are really wine lovers or wine freaks, because in fact we choose the grape varieties more special, maybe more special in my opinion, grape varieties that we have, or different, not better but different grape varieties like Baga, Encruzado for white, and in my opinion, also for me, of course, it will be for sure. The Ramisco from Colares, and I would in fact I would like to have a vineyard with Jamishko. So thank you so much for giving me the money. Okay. But also, so maybe some Mular as well, also from Colares that is being extinguished, some Tinta Miúda. So this is the grapes that I like the most. And of course, my other grapes like Mular and Tinta Negra, but this is my passion. So it's normal for me to say that. But maybe to put Tinta Negra in mainland, it would be just amazing for me as well. So, but Jamishko is so special, and Colares region is so special. And I would in fact cultivate Ramishko and in the Lisbon area, and I would feel really happy to do that. In fact,
look, I feel like it has made a dream come true, like
yeah, for sure.
Wish Foundation. I can see your eyes. You got really passionate about that.
Yes.
Sorry, there's no real money. Yeah, now I gotta
really?
money to get this out.
I thought you were.
Don't need the money.
check the mail. Check the mail.
Okay.
Well, it's funny. I actually am a big Incruzado fan, so I normally would go that route. But I think the more my limitations to not having a car, I end up traveling to more vineyards in the Lisbon region. And so I end up learning more about Fernão Pires and Maria Gomez, wherever you are. And so I think that, for me, I was, from natural winemakers, for conventional winemakers, just kind of understanding the terroir of Lisbon as a wine region for me. Yeah. And so if I was, on my own, was investing, I think that would be the grape that I would like to explore. So it's funny how much white grapes actually came up. I don't know if anybody realized that, but I think, and that's just the thing. A lot of people think of Portuguese wine and think of reds. I think the first wine I ever learned about or grape was Touriga Nacional here in the States and selling wine. And then it was Casal Garcia from Vinho Verde with its blends of whites from Vinho Verde region. And that was where the two main areas that I was selling or pushing when people ask me about Portuguese wine before I've ever visited Portugal. So we've just mentioned all these grapes in other regions that that you guys can actually look up, and hopefully and this is coming from people in the area, so they actually I don't think they're biased to this. I think they really are telling you from their heart where they would like to invest. So let's get into the tasting before someone curses out. Philippe, did you see any questions come in from the chat that we should address right now, or anything we should note before?
Yeah, we have a few viewers with us, which is great, but no questions so far.
Okay.
Just
if you hear this and you have a question that comes up, or if you blind tasting along with us, go ahead and make your suggestion of what wine you think it is, if you feel confident enough to type it in the chat as well. So this portion, we're going to go through a normal tasting where we go through the notes, and then the other peers in the room we're going to have to guess the grape, guess the region, guess the producer, if you feel so bold to. And we have one fortified wine, so that will be obvious when we get to, obviously, to Rui. And we will be guessing which style of port he has. So who's ready to start?
Ladies first.
Diana, let's go.
Well played, Pedro. Well played.
Batata kid.
So Pedro.
Hot potato.
In me, so okay.
Lady Diana.
Pedro, clearly you have been living in Portugal long enough to know the basic rules, huh? Really good one.
You're so gentle.
Whenever the men don't want to do anything, ladies first. Yes, I know that.
Yes. That's the thing. But
it's not like that. It's not like that.
I choose a special wine for me, and unfortunately, none of you have ever tasted, and it is a wine. It's a very special wine from Madeira, and it is a wine. It's a red wine. And this is a very special red wine, because when you talk about Portugal, you would never guess that this is a red wine from Portugal. Not because it is from Portugal, it has a terroir of Madeira. Normally the table wines from Madeira are so different that people normally don't guess it is from Madeira. It's a very open colored wine. I don't know if you can see it, but yes, you can.
Yeah.
So it's not a very strong, dark color. It has more kind of a violet color. So it's more light, more open color. It is like, it has some good primary aromas. It's, I don't know, can I say the grape variety? I'm joking. So I'm joking.
I have here a Cabernet Sauvignon.
Look, this is what Pedro said. Yeah, let Diana go first because she knew.
I'm joking. And this is, as far as the nose is concerned, it is a wine that it has it presents like some cherry and some rose petals. It presents as well some freshness on the nose. It has a great entrance on the mouth. So when you put on your mouth, you feel like elegancy and fruitiness, and then freshness. At the same time, it ends like feeling like cherry again. Like cherry, like roses, and once you stop, or once you end it drinking, what you feel is that you need to eat something with it. So it's like gastronomic kind of wine. So it's a wine that is elegant, but at the same time that needs some food with it. So it has some saltiness. Like yes.
No, I was trying to pronounce. What's Andre? Jain?
Jain. Yes.
Mencia.
This is what I'm thinking. That's from what you're saying, but
which is good, in fact, which is very good. That grape, concerning what I'm talking about. So it's quite an interesting grape variety concerning the grape variety that I have here in my glass. But because also it has this Jaen, it's also very smooth. It's a wine, it's a very elegant wine. Normally the good Jaen in Portugal, Mencia, they are very fresh as well. But in here you have some volcanic nose and some volcanic taste on your tongue. Salinity. It is saltiness. It has saltiness, in fact. It's like salty, and it has some like pepper. It seems like you are drinking some pepper. You are eating some peppers on your mouth, like red peppers, not green, because it's not a green wine. But it is very smooth, and then on your mouth, what you can feel as well is that he's so elegant and so yummy that you want to try it again.
Tell us the acidity level and tannin level and alcohol.
What's Diana?
Yeah, as far as 6 of tartaric acidity. 6, yes. Pedro, I cannot hear it. Can you hear me?
What's the acidity, tannin?
Yes.
Yes.
As far as acidity, it's about almost 6 of tartaric acidity. So it's about 6. It's 563, in fact, which is for a red wine. For a red wine, it's not. It's a lot, in fact. So normally it is less than that. And this wine, it had also the alcoholic fermentation and also malolactic fermentation, because it had so much acidity when it entered on the winery. Like it had about 9 of acidity when it entered. So now it's about 563. So Bruno, as you said, for us to keep the bottles, so this is a keeper. So this is a bottle that I kept for a long time. So that's why nowadays it is like 563. Otherwise it was like maybe 7 or 8 as far as acidity. And then as far as the alcohol, it's 12 degrees of alcohol. And as far as the volume of sugar, this has a percentage of sugar, which is about 3, which is not. It's not enough. It's not a lot for a red wine. So it has a great acidity, less sugar, not good. Not as far as volume of alcohol. It's just 12%. So it is a very special and different kind of wine. It's like a out of the box wine. But it seems like Jaen, as you mentioned, Shah, it can be a good tip for it.
All right.
But it's not.
Oh,
I would say more. Yeah.
A red table wine from Madeira, not
Yes.
fortified.
Not
I'd go
45.
for Tinta Negra.
Of
Also
course,
the
Pedro,
cherry.
you would go. Of course, you would go to Tinta Negra. This is my grape. No? Yeah, yeah, it is Tinta Negra. Yeah.
I could only think it would be Tinta Negra, but in the meantime, like I'm like, perhaps it's something different. But okay.
When
No, I thought like this. I thought I will not bring it, and then I said, no, I will going to bring it because they will think I am not going to bring it.
No, because
No, you had me on the cherry and roses aromas. And I was
Yes.
like,
yeah, that's Tinta Negra, like all
That's
the
Tinta
cherry, the cherry
Yeah.
aromas and the salinity. I was like, okay, that's
and
screams.
everybody knows I know everybody wine, so I'm here to just throw everybody off.
No, I don't know. No, it's much easier for me because I'm a wine producer of this wine, so they thought it's more easy. So it's just much easier to pick the grape that it is. I am known to be the Miss Tinta Negra Shah, so normally it's really it's really more easy to say like Tinta Negra for.
Here you go. If you want to
for
know
my
more about Tinta Negra, go
But-
to Diana Silva's page. You'll learn about it. You learn about
Yeah,
the grape.
exactly.
I'm gonna come visit her, so
Yes, yes.
please make sure you learn about the grape. But I think that's a big point. Pedro just mentioned that it is one of the main grapes, one of the main varietals in Madeira, but the fortified Madeira, in this case, she's making a still version of it on her own label. So for those of you who don't know much about Madeira, the island or the fortified wine, this is a new way to
Let me just tell you one thing, which is interesting for the people that loves Madeira, and there's a lot of people that love Madeira wine. So Tinta Negra, it composes 85% of the island as far as cultivation. So 85%, it means that all the 3-year-old Madeira, like the sweet, medium sweet, dry, medium dry, they are all made with Tinta Negra. Okay, because Tinta Negra, when it is planted in different altitudes, it can give you dry, medium dry, sweet, and medium sweet also varieties of wine. So this is quite interesting. But nowadays, yeah, I have two. Yes, Pedro or Bruno.
So,
Pedro?
and tell me there's a fight between Madeira and the Algarve. Algarve has Negra Mole and and Madeira has Tinta Negra. Is it the same grape variety or is it not?
They are not the same grape variety. They are different grape variety. The thing
That
is
was
that
my question.
in the past, Tinta Negra in Madeira was known to be Tinta Negra Mole. So it has the mole from the Algarve, Negra Mole. But the mole, it's because the skin is very soft skin, like, and then because of that, they called it mole. So it's that's it. And we changed it. We changed the name, and nowadays it's not mole and just Tinta Negra because we don't want it to be close to the idea that it was from the Algarve Negra Mole or from the Canarian island, which is also Negra Mole.
Negra Mole.
So Tinta Negra, it's similar. It's a clone of Mular from Collares. So
that's what I was about to ask you. So it's the same thing as Mular, and the Mular that you see in South America, and you see some Mular in Andalusia too. And
exactly.
It's the same thing as the Saburinho in Azores too.
It is the same time as Saburinho. So it's a great.
That is actually my question, Pedro. Like I wanted to see like. Yeah.
And it's a great grape that it's never been used as a still, or it has been used in the past as a still wine. But as you know, and you are in the wine business, it's interesting also for the consumers. The most part of the people, more precisely worldwide, but in Portugal, things are changing, but we still have the thing that if the grape just gives you like 12% of alcohol or 12.5% of alcohol, it's not good. So it is seen as a non-good wine, and because of that, they didn't make still wines in Madeira because the grape itself, it doesn't mature so much in the vineyard. It is much. If you work very good the vineyard, it will mature very well. But if you don't work very much the vineyard, it will give you at least 10.5 in the vineyard. And if you work well, of course, it can give you 12, as I have 12 because I work the vineyard I prune the vineyard in a different way. So I'm doing a different job as far as the vineyard is concerned. So that's the difference. But it's very interesting because things are changing. And as far as the alcohol, I hate when people says that if it is 14% of alcohol, it's too much, when it is 12, it is it doesn't matter. The alcohol, forget about the alcohol, okay? The importance about a wine, it is always, if it is good fruits, good freshness, in my opinion, good acidity, and then the alcohol, it will be like, okay, it has alcohol or not. Okay.
Can I ask you something? Were you here for the volcanic wines? Were you here in the volcanic wines
no,
last year or 2 years ago?
Not.
You weren't. But your wines were. You tasted your wines for the volcanic.
Yeah,
John
I was. Yeah, I was with the NLC with Nama Lofer, and she put our wines also in the volcanic because we have a distributor in US. It's Nama Lofer.
It's Nama.
And she put our wines. She's amazing, but it is more difficult to put our wines in the mind of the consumer because we are from Madeira, and Madeira it's always known to the fortified wines. And in US, more precisely, it's easier maybe, or it's easier to understand better the volcanic wines from Azores because you have a huge percentage of people from Azores. So you have a huge community from Azores, and we in Madeira, we have more community in Canada maybe. But not so much, and so it's more difficult for us to enter in the market, but we are doing a great job, in fact, with Nama, and so it's cold for Andrea. It's cold.
Yes,
it's the Atlantic.
You have
it's
to drink
the Atlantic.
In the draft from the volcanoes or something.
I'm just in front of the beach, so I'm kind of feeling the afternoon seaside.
So rub it in front of the beach. We all want to be in front of the beach.
I'm not.
We need more ambassadors like you, and to I don't know, to explore, to activate the idea of Madeira as a still wine also producer all region.
Yep.
All the regions of Portugal, like, hey, you represent us. Everybody's screaming.
I would represent all of you. In fact, I would like
that's the spirit.
Yeah, I would like to, for us, all of us, we should drink more Portuguese wine. We should.
That's my hashtag.
I'm always selling Portuguese wines in Portugal.
I don't think we can drink more Portuguese wine than we drink already.
Yeah, we drink a lot of Portuguese wine.
Fun fact: Portugal came in as #1 in consumption of their own. No, not only their own wine, but of wine. But of course, they're drinking their own wine. So, a small country, population of about 10 million people. Just to give you some comparison, New York City is 9 million, just the city, not the state.
Documented. Documented.
Excuse me. Documented. We got to represent everybody. So yeah, so this is documented people in both countries. 9 million. I don't know who's running around New York City either, but in this case, that just give you some idea. #1 consumption. That's it. And I'm talking about in comparison to France, Italy, Spain. Consumption #1, go Portugal. You guys are holding it down on your own. Pedro, so you got that one, or at least you called it out first. So we're gonna let you go ahead with this, and so that we're not here to until midnight. Let's try to make sure we going at it. What are you? I can't have you here to midnight. Rui gonna fall asleep. Yeah, I'm trying to make sure he's awake. Pedro's getting cold. He need to go for his swim in a second. Come on.
I don't mind to be here until midnight. The restaurants are closed in Portugal, so there's nothing to do. If you allow me to drink wine and have some food in between, so I'm fine with that. So.
Bring the cheese.
Bring the cheese.
So I have here an Atlantic.
You guys want to pick one?
Oh, come on, hey. Send that.
How dare you?
It's a pity that I cannot send you the smell because it's.
That's part of it, yeah.
You can have some cheese rind on your board.
Atlantic wines is a thing. I have here a really nice Atlantic white. So here we have either a pale gold or medium lemon yellow color, bright, clear. Nose. The aroma is really pronounced. We have here some citrus flavors going to grapefruit, orange peel. a little bit of flowers. I'm gonna go to lime blossom, orange blossom as well. And Atlantic wines, we have salinity. We have salinity in the aroma. I also can smell like the sea breeze. And okay, mouthfeel. Mouthfeel. Acidity, zipping electric acidity. My mouth is filled with water. Really nice mouth volume of mouth. So it's an oily body, long. I can taste aromatic wise. I have here toasted notes like dry fruits and a little bit of caramel as well. So that identifies oakiness. Well integrated. This will give it more longevity. This is a fairly young wine, so it has really potential of aging. And this acidity, it really lingers on. It lingers on. Saltiness is like washing my mouth as well. And really zipping electric acidity, crunchy crispness. Glad I'm talking in English to say the crispness. And can't get enough of it. It's really.
What kind of fruit? What kind of fruit again on the palate?
It'll be citrusy. Get like a little bit of grapefruit, orange peel. It confirms itself in the mouth, in the palate as well. Also with the toastiness of the dry fruits of the oakiness.
It is from Lisbon, right?
It's a Lisbon white, yes. So Atlantic influence a lot.
That oily part is throwing me off a little bit.
Arinto has that a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking Arinto, like the salinity and everything. Lemony, still, I'm thinking Arinto, but just still that oily
yes.
part, I'm a little.
But it is a Arinto. You
Torres Vedras? Torres Vedras?
No, it's here. It's not Colares. It's Lisbon IG. But I know the winemaker. He's a
Can you
really.
show us the bottle? The bottle now? You can show us the bottle.
Okay, not can review the bottle. So it's a fairly young project, and it's from
Yeah.
Oh.
I know. I have heard about it. Yes.
Yeah, it's
Cool.
by a few meters. It's not considered to be Colares because it has chalk soils. It has calcareous chalk soils. And if it were sand soils, then it would be Colares. But then again, that's less than 1 kilometer and really ocean front. So you have that sea breeze smacking the vineyard, and it really translates to the wine. It's a 2017. So I really would like to know this, like at least 10 years from now, it's going to be gold color.
And in cellars, Pedro, I think that the grape is Ganacão. Right?
No. It's blended. It's Arinto.
No, it's Arinto, not Cercial. Okay, sorry.
It's Arinto. It's Arinto. Normally, Ganacão, you can.
It's Arinto. Okay,
some,
forget. Yeah. Cercial is Ganacão. Yeah.
Ganacão, like the dog strangler. That's what we call it here.
Yeah.
And it's blended with Arinto. I grew up like from my 10th to 20s. I lived in Loures, which Loures is very close to Bucelas, and I did some harvest at Quinta da Romeira and Capos Velhas. But yeah, I would love to taste that like in a few years, definitely. Thanks for bringing that. Like, Bucelas needs some help. It's another region that needs help.
Andre, it's your turn.
Okay. So I'm actually the first one to bring something that is not one. Oh, sorry. We're having something that when you put on the nose, it has this it's like you're going through a garden full of white flowers. So like the morning where you have this very strong aromas of all the white flowers you can think of. Okay. then the other thing that you have on this one is that immediately on the nose you can see there's you know when you can feel there's some good balance already on the nose. There's this thing, you haven't tasted it yet, but there's this thing where you see that nothing is out of place when you put the nose inside, and you have a little touch of oakiness. Okay, so you have this that everything is like touching the right notes. It's very, very, very well balanced. And then of course, when you put it in the mouth, you actually feel acidity, but it's not Atlantic acidity. So you have some acidity, but it's nothing compared to Atlantic acidity. And you have this, it's quite a smooth wine. You have this kind of a, how do you say it in English? Untuosity. You don't say that. How do you say?
It's antrus.
Antrus. Yeah, you have a little bit of that. Probably also coming from the oak, but it's actually this is the wine. I'll give a tip. This is not a single variety. So we're tasting something that has, of course, it's a blend, and what you have here.
It's a typical blend from where it's from.
It's a typical blend for where it's from.
Okay.
And then on the mouth also you have this. It's quite again, it's quite balanced, and it has a beautiful, beautiful long finish. 12.5% alcohol.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And what kind of fruit on the palate?
White fruit also. It starts a little bit, when I opened the bottle, it actually had a little bit of tropical notes, but then it's a white fruit, maybe peach, maybe, it's maybe like that, a little bit of peach. Yes.
Maybe it's
White Douro.
a white, I would say
White
down. Really?
Rabigato.
I would say down, like a down.
I'll go to
encruzado.
Any iodine notes or not at all?
No.
Any place or notes? No.
I'm going to Douro. I'm going to a Douro white. Those floral reminds me a little bit of kind of Rabigato a little bit, and Malvasia fina, like that, having that Malvasia like kind of floral, 12%. I'll go with the Douro white. Malvasia Gouveia, Rabigato. Viazinho a little bit, but that floral part reminds me a little bit about the even Códiga. Yeah, in Códiga, yeah.
Well done, guys.
What's the blend, guys. Andre?
So it's actually Rabigato, Viazinho, Gouveia, and Erinto, and we're tasting this.
Quinta do Convento.
What year?
This is the 18, and it's a wine that is actually matured in oak for I think it's around 12 months. In 500-liter barrels. This is made by Anselmo Mendes and Diogo, who also makes wine at Adega May, right?
And
it's and ridiculous good value in Portugal, because you pay 11 something euros for something like this. And yeah, you're right.
In Europe, in Portugal, it's 11 euros, but
yes,
it can
Portugal,
easily sell for a good 15 to 20 on the shelf if you was buying the bottle. And in restaurant, Bruno, you were saying?
Of course, like I have to be honest on this one. I'm fine dining. For me, I would go at least $70 with that wine.
And you could, and I would say that you could actually sell it for that, because the value for money on this wine is incredible when you buy it in Portugal. I think this wine is worth much more than what is being charged for it. And I'm sure that a client, especially in a fine dining context, and the kind of course, the kind of flexibility that a wine like this has for a meal in a fine dining restaurant, the client will be more than pleased to pay 70 euros for something of this quality from Burgundy or any other great wine or white wine region in the world. They pay $300-400 easily. So something like this needs to be sold for something like that.
Definitely.
I have that wine in my list, and it's from 1999.
Yes, and it was just they've
How
just
much you
actually
sell it
done
for?
a tasting.
It's going for I think 110.
Here we go. That's within Portugal, in Lisbon,
Yes.
1999, 110 euros. So
And it's actually, and it's
21-year-old wine.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful, golden color.
It's beautiful, and it's actually a wine that was declared as being something that was to throw away. And when the new owner of the winery found out this, and then the new winemaker came in, and they discovered this. They decided to do a few tastings, and they discovered that they had a 21-year-old wine that is just beautiful. I agree with you. Outstanding wine. 21-year-old. Huh? Crazy.
2 thumbs up.
Awesome.
2 thumbs up.
Fantastic.
Yes.
So just to recap, we started with Diana, and Diana had a. Where's your bottle, Diana? We didn't. I know it's your name. You got it all in the background, but
Yes.
but just so people can see it.
Tinta Negra Ilha.
All right, and then we went on, and that's Tinta Negra Ilha. I'm pronouncing that correctly, right? The brand.
Yeah,
name, Ilha.
that's perfect.
And then we have Pedro, and he has an Arintu, and Andre is with another white right away. Had a Ribigato, Vision, and what's the third grade?
Vizinho,
Vizinho. Yes.
Oh, Vizino. Okay.
Yes.
Rinto,
Govaio. Yeah.
Gouveia. All right. So Bruno, you got that one. So you up next.
All right. So I have something. I think it's pretty special. The region is pretty special, and if you can see a little bit on the color, a little deep, a little bit of a orange, kind of brownish, slight rim variation. I don't know if you can see it a little bit, but it does have that, so that might indicate you something. In terms of the nose, like I opened this because I'm going to talk about this wine later on, but I'm getting a potpourri, a lot of dried flowers. It's quite perfumey, dark fruit, blue fruit, but a lot of dry fruit. The wine is dry, talking about fairly high acidity, medium plus acidity, medium plus tannin, nicely structured, medium body in terms of structure, but the tannins are still very silky. Kind of fruit, a little plummy kind of fruit. I only have a banana in my stomach, but that's all right. Rhubarb, that kind of strawberry, that kind of nuance, a little smoke, a little hint of smoke, and beautiful grape. What else do you guys need?
Tannins, acidity.
Tannin is, so again, alcohol, it's medium, and that's actually goes for 11. It's light in alcohol. Let's say 11% of alcohol. It's actually light to medium, but in alcohol, but acidity medium plus, and tannins medium plus.
Vintage.
So this is 98.
Ooh.
That's the brownish.
Yeah, I was going there with the orange rim.
That's why I said like the brown. I don't know if you can see it then, but as a rim variation. But even for 98, it's not could be like way brown or any. Actually, it doesn't. Way brown, no, actually more orange, but actually it doesn't. So that says a lot about the grape.
What kind of fruit do you have? Like more matured, more slum? Okay, like it's slowly matured.
Slowly matured plum, but again, like rhubarb, strawberry, but on the plum-ish. Yeah.
Okay.
Pomegranate a little bit.
Right.
And it's the tannins are so sorry.
Leather.
Medium plus. Tannins medium plus.
Okay.
But again, it's a wine. Yeah. I opened this like 3 hours ago.
Oh.
So yeah.
Rui, you had a question?
I was just asking if the wine. I was just trying to confirm if the wine is not that far from Lisbon. Was produced not that far from Lisbon.
Not far at all.
It is. I guess it's. Yeah, it will be in Colares for sure, like a
Chita? Can it be a Chita, something like that?
Ramisco. I would say Ramisco. Yeah.
All right. Diana got her grapes.
I don't know.
Once you said like I want to do wine in Colares, I want to do like play with Remishko, and I wanted to say like Remishko, I would definitely like invest my money in Remishko, but like I know myself. I would start like describing the wine right now. So like
let's do it together. Let's do it together then.
So this is Paulo Chita.
98.
Super cool producer. This is a 98. So I'm just giving you a heads up. I'm going to talk this on my Instagram. I'm going to be talking later on. But
at what time? At what
I'm gonna put it. I'm gonna put it like on my videos, but
Okay,
on my
okay.
videos. But probably I'll put it today or later. But yeah, so super small producer, like no Instagram page, like no website, nothing. And no, like it's super awesome. I love it. I love his wines, and it's definitely a region. Again, like we were talking about Pucelas, like Bruno, don't talk about Colares that way. Like you're gonna start talking about it. But yes, he needs help. But fortunately, lately you have Ramilo, like the brothers, like the Ramilo, they're doing a great job. Viúva Gomes, I love that guy. I love Diogo, what he's doing, so passionate about the winery, about the family. But Carcavelos, Colares, Bucelas, they need help, because otherwise they will go out of the
of the map.
out of the map. But I was with the Diogo at Adega Mai, November, and I grew up in Lisbon. I was picking up all these fossils, all these rocks, and I was like, what the heck? I'm a city boy. Like I asked my biology teacher, like, what is this? Like those are fossils. This used to be emerged by water. That coming down to what Pedro just said, like salinity fossil, like Torres Vedras, like Val da Capucha with Pedro. Like I was like fossils all over the place, but we forget about these kind of things. But yeah,
Bruno,
talking about
Bruno, I was just going to add just one short comment about helping these fantastic regions. We all in this panel know that they are some of the most wonderful treasures of wine in Portugal. But I do have to say that some of the producers, oh wow, yes, in the world, of course. But I do have to say that the producers also themselves, they need to think different. They need to understand that there's a world out there, that what their neighbor is doing is not competing with them, is actually helping them.
Competition.
Yes. And so I do have to make the comments that if they want to save themselves, they need to work on how they look at it. Look at that. Those are amazing treasures.
Yeah, I like Aranai as well.
Aranai as well is very good.
That's so good, so good. They need to be sold like treasures, which they are.
But I have to add one thing that I'm going to try to be as political as correct, but Lisbon needs to make a better. Lisbon as a wine commission. Lisbon as a wine commission needs to do better. What happened to the brandies and the sparklings in Lourinhã? Torres
I agree
Vedras,
with your
Colares,
comments.
Bucelas, Torres Vedras, Bucelas, and Colares, like in the 1800s, like they were prized wines.
Yes.
You know, like everyone, like in Europe, loved these wines, and look what's happening right now. You know, like you go to Torres Vedras, like you have Val da Capucha doing this, you have Chocapalha doing this, you have Quinto do Pinto doing this, and they're all bringing like the diversity of the just Torres Vedras itself. And
Bruno,
it's amazing, and we forgot about this.
Even Madeira is doing better with their table wines now.
Thank you, André. Thank you.
But who's doing that? Like who's doing that? Like who?
Yeah, who's doing that? Good producers from Madeira.
You know,
find
there's
some great Negra Mall. They have great
know,
Negra Mall in Madeira. Great Negra
Bruno,
Mall.
Yes.
but you know, what André is saying. André is saying one thing which is interesting, Bruno. In fact, Madeira is producing still wine since 1990. Okay, and Madeira, as we know today, like fortified wines, it has been in discovery. It's not a fortified wine; it was a still wine, like champagne in the 9th century. That wasn't champagne; it was a still wine. So so Madeira needs some help as well to educate. We need to educate better the consumers. So, but yes, I think that's Colares, André. So, you know, Madeira has 500 hectares. 500 hectares.
Wow. So need some help as well.
Like
if you can make those United flights available again, that is the help that I need right now.
Good point.
What?
He just want to get back on a plane. Don't worry.
Okay.
And like I have this on my wine list, and I sell this for 120, and people are like, hey, I kind of like Nebbiolo. I like stuff like that. Like, and I tell them like, if I see they kind of open into wine and they actually know their wine, they're wine geeks and stuff like that. Like, I want something exquisite. Like, we heard you from Portugal. What do you have? Like this. Like, I don't really want to like go like to Riganus. You know, like, what can you bring? Like, imagine if Nerella Mascalese and Sagrantino had a baby. Okay, imagine if these grapes had a baby, like you get like all this saline, all this like kind of ashy that this wine has for 110. And they look at them, they can't take it for them. Like, but there's barely no indication of aging. I was expecting like 98, the Portuguese one would be like brown or something. Like, no, you know, like you don't get like any kind of mushroomy, like it's not mushroomy on that kind of profile with the tertiary aromas that easily a 98 wine in any kind of place of the world could start bring. But it's super fresh, love the acidity on the wine. And the tannins, like I think it's very food friendly. I love this, like, yeah. And I still have a 98 too.
Yeah.
And I have a 96. I opened the 98 and I still have a 96.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Next.
Who was that? Oh, we're going to Philippe because Diana, who got it right, she went first. So Philippe.
Yeah, so I'm going to my wine. I'm very excited to present my wine today. So I hope you enjoy it. So in the color, we can notice a beautiful dark garnet color with a slight brownish rim. On the nose, beautiful wild berries aroma developing into red plum. It reminds me of my childhood when I used to go with my grandmother picking berries to do homemade jam. Beautiful wine. So let's taste it. Fantastic. It's a full body wine, very mouth coating and powerful tannins. You can sense notes of ripe red fruit and some hints of smoke and coffee. Alcohol is definitely high, 14.5. Acidity medium high, and again, strong tannins. Time has been kind to this wine. It has been aging well. And also the 24 months in old oak has been helping smoothing the tannins. But you still can feel it. They're very there, they're very present. This is a wine that you can drink it now or easily drink it over the next 20 or 30 years. And I'm pretty sure it would pair very well with a local dish called chanfana, which is the old goat meat cooked in a pot.
Thank you for the explanation.
I'm pretty sure you already got it.
Chanfana was
Yes,
basically
I do.
because of the French. It was basically because of Napoleon, because the people were hiding the meats and they put the meats like in wine barrels. And that's how like the braising in red wine basically happened, right?
That's right.
Yes.
Oh,
The
well,
original.
they're taking notes. Whoever's watching this are going to watch this on the replay. They're dropping gems. You learning so much about Portugal right now. I'm picking up stuff even from listening to you guys.
The more you know. The more you know.
Who's going to take a stab at Philippe's jammy berry?
Philippe, do you have already any tertiary aromas, or is it red fruits, ripe fruits?
It's still very, very ripe red fruits. The tertiaries are not very present yet.
Okay.
It has been aging well, but still not that old.
Okay.
You said 24 months in oak?
Old oak, yeah.
Old oak.
Neutral. And did you mention the vintage? Excuse me.
It's 2011.
Okay. About to shut up.
Blend or single grape?
Single.
Huh?
Is it a blend?
Single. It's
single.
Monovarietal, yeah.
I'm gonna go kind of down Touriga Nacional, down by the Touriga Nacional.
You got to pick one. He says single grape, so
just one.
Single, right? That's what I'm saying. Down Touriga Nacional.
Down Touriga Nacional. Sorry, go ahead.
No, not that.
Is it salinity or no salinity?
No, not really. We have a few mountains covering the area, so.
That cherry is driving me, could be driving to a baga, but.
Not, but high alcohol for baga?
Yeah.
It's the baga, guys. Yeah, of course.
It's baga, right? That's what. But the alcohol, I was like in between. That's why I was.
Baga 14.5.
Baga, guys.
Yeah.
Sidónio Souza, Garrafeira 2011.
Oh boy.
So glad.
I was definitely going for Baga because of the garnet color, and you're saying no tertiary flame. Mm-hmm. But then
Crap.
alcohol. I was
Crap.
Yes, I'm from Bairrada. No, I wouldn't do
11.
anything else, huh?
I have this here, man.
I know,
Not a
I'm
Baga.
very
It's
glad
not the
that
same
you
bottle.
Baga there in New York. I'm very glad to hear that.
No, I bought this
He
from
brought this
Sidani.
back. Yeah, this is not in New York. Anything that he shows you is like not fair game. Bruno is not.
But you mentioned you have some bag on your wine list over there.
That's yeah.
This is
So
a
That one is perfect.
that's old school, yeah.
You want to talk old school? You
Oh,
having fun,
God, here we
Bajada?
go.
You ready?
Oh damn!
Bring it on.
Uh-oh, let's not do this. Now Andre's going to his
Yeah,
cellar now.
I need to get
Really,
a battery. I'll be right back.
Oh, okay. I was like, he's
But
gonna
I
go to
have
his
I have
cellar.
Vadio Baga, Luis
And
Pato.
Andre, we're gonna need you because we're going to the port, and you know we know you the
I'm
port wine.
not going anywhere. I'm just going to get my my battery. I'll be right back. One second.
All right.
Bruno, what is your feeling about the Baga in the States? Are people
Crazy, it's amazing. Love it. I did Vadio. I did Vadio 2009 and 2013 by the glass. People loved it because again, like it's if people like Ternebiola, Barbarescos, Barolos, and you like your in the perspective of Vadio, it might be a little more like Luis George kind of Pinot Noir, a little more tannin driven, while Luis Pato would be a little more like that kind of Chambol Musigny, a little more truffly, like, but people love it. Like it's very food friendly, makes sense with my kind of cuisine at my restaurant, like highest, like good acidity, good through, like French cuisine, you have dairy, fat, butter, fat. So you need something like to steak, it's a steak wine as well. Like it's very well balanced.
I wasn't expecting the alcohol, the amount of alcohol.
Exactly.
So for me,
That's why I went to
more
Torino.
difficult. Yeah, of course, indeed. So
that's when I was like,
I would never say Baga for
So
never.
Bruno, is your
For that
version
alcohol.
not
So that's
14.5? You have it as well. Is yours 14.5 as well? You heard me, Bruno?
what? I'm sorry.
Oh, I was asking because you had the same. I know maybe you have two different vintages, but is yours? What's the alcohol on the bottle that you have?
My Sidonia.
Yeah,
Yes.
the same one that Philippe. Yeah. Mhm.
It's 11 as well, so should be the same thing.
Yeah.
14 and
yeah,
a
of
half.
course.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a great year all over the country, and in Bairrada was the same. So very ripe grapes.
And he's a great guy. Paulo is a great guy. I have to say this. I keep saying this, but
He's
unfortunately
probably watching us because I told him that I would bring his wine today.
and I still have a bottle of this, but I did last week. I did a video about this Garrafeira, the 2000, not the Garrafeira Vinho Tour, the 2009. But he did a great thing. He's such a great man. Unfortunately, like it's going to be like 2 years. My mom passed away. She was living in Figueira da Foz, and while we were doing the wake, Velorio, I see someone is tapping my back. Was Paulo.
Really?
Paulo, he went without saying anything. He went to my mom's wake without saying anything. That shows a lot about what Paulo and
A
what
person.
Sidonia.
Yeah.
Like I think
I'm so sorry, Bruno.
Yeah.
fuck
Very
cancer.
sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, he's a great man. They're benfiquistas, but it's all right.
I also have it in my list. Now it's run out. They had he had the 2009, and then it went to the 2000, and then and now it's out.
There's no more of this wine available. He will release some premiums, 300 bottles, some magnums, and 300 bottles in a few weeks. That's it.
And it's another great thing about Baga, the capability for sparkling. I'm not crazy about Baga for sparkling, to be honest. Not really, but it's amazing that the grape can do all these things, and Americans like that.
Yeah.
Americans like that. Like they like to know, like, oh, this grape can do this and this and this and that. Even if I don't have a bag sparkling on my list, but I can tell them, like, you know what, like actually they can make like sparklings. You can buy this like for less than $15. And his sparkling is pretty cool. Which part of like sparklings are from Baga are pretty cool too. But yeah.
Rui, we got
I
Andre
was
in
gonna
place.
say, I was gonna say that our Christmas dinner, I mean, myself and my team in back in December in Porto, one of the highlights of the dinner was the second red with which nobody could guess, and it was Sidónio Souza '09 out of Magnum, and it was one of the best experience that we all had in recent times with a Portuguese red. Getting to that right point of bottle aging, so with some sort of tertiary elements, but still very vibrant, you know. And was quite a surprise to have a wine from '09 in that shape. And of course, Baga has great ability to age, but that wine I think surprised everyone. Was so balanced. So I don't know the one that you are tasting. Philippe never tasted that, but the '09 out of a Magnum, it's definitely on my top selection from Bairrada lately.
Yeah.
I was just going to make a comment about. We all know that Portugal is making some of these wines that are, I would say, world class. So in any blind tasting, together with some of the best wines in the world, something like a Garrafeira from Sidónio Souza will be up there with the best. And something we've been doing, and I think it's something that if we start using more, we might start bringing up the value of Portuguese wine. It's something called Fine Portugal. And I believe that that we have this idea that we rarely talk about fine wine in Portugal, and actually sometimes the price is something that is we think, of course, fine wine has something expensive, and if we think of Sidónio Souza, it's not expensive. But we need to start talking about fine Portugal so that people understand that Portugal makes fine wine. And actually, if we have a segment of fine wine in Portugal, and we all in this panel know that we have that, maybe other wines will also, the price will also go up a bit, and then we can have more value in that market. But we all know that we have some great fine Portugal producers, fine wine of Portugal, working, of course, in Portugal, exporting and working very well. But we need to talk about those in a segment of its own.
And even Baga, like the diversity again, like the region itself, like because you have like what Sidónio does that can easily go along with Casa de Saima. That's my perspective with Luís Pato a little bit, but then you have Vadio, what Patrão is doing, what Felipe Pato is doing, like a different perspective. And of course, you can always go to the big guys, Adega Catanheda and Quinta do Encontro. Like you have all these different perspectives, Campo Largo, and everyone does Baga in a different way. My only, like what I've been experiencing about Baga, like if you plant it in the wrong terroir in Bairrada, it's because it's not easy to train. Baga is not easy to deal with.
Must be on the right spot.
The right place.
To study the land first.
Like Pinot Noir, like you don't grow Nebbiolo like any place. You don't grow Pinot Noir just because you want to, like, you know, basic.
For sure. And Andrea, you picked up now I'm mixing them both together because right before I came into here, I was live with Pedro and I spoke about fine wine of Portugal on his Instagram live today about how we need to change the idea of Portugal, especially in the US when people are buying it off the shelf. When you don't have people like Bruno hand holding the bottles, you know, it's the conception of or the perception of how people view Portuguese wine. And that was important for us for this show as well, for the power of Portugal. They already believe in port wine. They already believe in fortified wines from Madeira. So it's more about how do we expand that, to across to other regions, as well as to the still wine for increased value. But
I think we could do something very simple of even something like a hashtag Find Portugal would go a long way. Every time we post something that we think it's world class, really up there with everything we're tasting from around the world, Find Portugal could give an indication. So if we have anyone reading what we're doing online and they read Find Portugal, even if they don't know what it is, they'll identify the words Find and Portugal together, and that's a good thing.
That's what I did with, I have a tag that it's Portugal Rocks, and I have the tag Drink More Portuguese Wine. So people like, and I can see that actually works. Like the way people like, oh, like how they find the wines, like they.
All right, well, I'm
it's
glad
a good idea.
you
Great
made.
idea.
Thanks for sharing that, Andre, because I think all of us, whether it's wines that we personally can't afford, but we're using them for at work in the restaurant, if we're posting them, just hashtag Find Portugal, because that's probably where it's going to start. It's not from the folks actually probably drinking them often. It's probably more about the ones who are serving the ones that's 250 euros, 100 euros, coulage, these kind of unique wines, and then using a hashtag for people to now, they're following us, but they don't know the difference. Like, is that a $10 bottle or is it a $100 bottle? So we have to be the ones to cultivate that. And now,
let me just add one thing. It's just that a bottle of that costs 100 euros, for instance, sometimes in Portugal, it means that in other countries it will cost 500 or 600.
Exactly.
Not all the wines, but the fact is that Portugal, the country, it is known to be the country of a good quality price country. And this is a thing that must be changed, must faster, as fast as we can, because we can't do good wines, cheap wine. We can't do good and cheap wines at the same time. If we do cheap wines, we do more commercial kind of wines, and we don't want to be known for this kind of wines. We want to be known for terroir, for authenticity, for the country, for Portugal, and for that reason, we must change things, and we must in this. COVID or what we must do with COVID is not to, we need to increase the wine. We need to be capable of doing that. It's not easy, of course, and the first thing that on our mind, like wine producers, is that, okay, we must cheap a little bit more the wines because we need to sell more because there's a pandemic outside, out there. But we can't do that. What we can do is we must give more quality. We must give more the idea that we are a small country and we produce so many few bottles. And so we need to be known as the treasure, or like treasures, and not like commercial good quality price wine. With that, we can't continue on having this Sidónio de Souza, this Colares Chitas, this Ramilo, and this kind of precious things. So we need to focus on not on the price, but on quality.
Definitely. I totally agree. And hopefully some identities in Portugal and some wine commissions and ICEPs and stuff like that are hearing us, because it's mainly up to them to change that mentality and see like, we need to do something about this, the perception of value, the perception. I get like a lot of questions like, you guys don't have like expensive wines, like Portugal doesn't have expensive. I'm like, some people see it like that, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but marketing is something that needs to change and comes from the top.
Bruno, you're in a this is the only thing I'm going to disagree with you today, is that it won't come from the top ever. It will never.
I'm drinking since 10 o'clock, man.
And it's actually up to us, Portuguese wine ambassadors around the world, who are doing this work and will continue to do this work. I'm not saying that what is happening at the top level organizations is bad. It's not bad. It's good work. It's good promotion. But innovation, change, and all that will never come from there.
And let's not forget about one slightly detail about the price and marketing. And another thing that Portugal needs to kind of rethink, it's the fact that still the US, Portuguese wine is still like in a burner about the tariffs with Trump. Portuguese wine is still not there, but already French wines and Italian wines are already with the 25 to 100% with tariffs. Might be a good thing for Portuguese wine, but might be a bad thing. So it's something that a lot of people need to figure out if they have a plan B if the tariffs really go through, which, knock on wood, this.
I wish they had a plan A.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know. Yeah.
Before we get too far into that, and we still have Ruiz Port, and we also have my wine, and we already took people away. If anybody's been hanging on along this time, thank you. But we have,
There's a lot of people.
But this is really what it feels like to be in Portugal. Truly, like the concept of time is like it's gone. What are we drinking? What are we talking about? Like, so I'm, we're on Portuguese time. We come in late and then we do this. It happens.
What do you mean calling in late?
Oh yeah. What's 15 minutes to like if we have a 2 hour long conversation, 15
This
minutes.
is crazy. So Rui, we're going to make sure you go straight in with the pour, okay? You're on mute. Okay.
Sorry, guys, I was on mute.
No more cheese.
So it's interesting because the panel has been following some behavior or some information that has been thrown to the table that it has been helping me with the subject that I want to bring with my wine. So most of the wines, and thinking about the ones that you guys presented, most of the wines are not that well known in the US. So what I thought was, let's think about the wine that probably all these people know and is not that well known in Portugal, or people don't pay enough attention. My point is, in the US, this is the wine that we are tasting now. It's a port, of course, and it's a wine that fortunately in the US is well known, and sometimes I think in Portugal is not seen as a top wine. And working in the US as much as I do, tasting this wine as often as I do, I just want to put some lights on it. And you can guess, because we have 4 houses, so Simon family owns 4 major houses. And if I was bringing a vintage wine or a single quinta from a specific house, it would add many layers of complexity, and I wanted this to be engaging and to have you being part of the conversation. So we are talking about a port. It's a non-vintage port. On the nose, following the signature of the house, it's very intense in terms of red fruits. I mean, very jammy. You find also a layer of mintiness, and for the ones that know the Douro, it has a little bit of that Mediterranean forest element on the top of the fruit. Very often is described as mint, this kind of mintiness on the top of the fruit, very intense. And it's a wine that really stands out by its young characteristics, which please the American palate in general. On the palate, what you can find following the house signature is a wine with a super pronounced mid palate. I mean, very soft, very full of roundness, and with those kind of peppery tannins, I mean, vibrant tannins that are also very distinct. So it's a one that usually we call it like fruity, young, and vibrant. It's a wine that is 100% estate grown. I mean, it's controlled by the family from the pruning up until the end. Everything is done by ourselves, which is it's a kind of a strong signature for a product like this. It's sourced from 4 major estates. 2 are located in the Cima Corgo, and the other 2 are located in the Douro Superior. You can imagine that the ones from Cima Corgo bring a lot more of that nose element. The ones from Douro Superior have a strong presence in the mouthfeel. I mean, bringing those tannins, those powerful tannins. So it's a wine that, as a ballpark in the US, it's above any other competitor at this level in terms of price point, and in terms of, I would say that it's probably the only one at this level that is 100% estate sourced. We call it a declassified vintage. So we try to mention that more than once. Unfortunately, it's not possible. As you know, port is very, the rules are very strict, and there is a positive side on that, of course. But every time that we communicate this one, we try to emphasize that side, which is we see it as a declassified vintage. If you think that all those 4 properties that supply grapes to this wine, all those properties make probably every year not more than 3 to 4% for vintage port. So the second selection, what comes right after, is for this wine. Yes?
So,
So I think you're supposed to identify, we're identifying what house is from, correct?
Sorry, Shah?
And so we're basically leaving everyone to identify which one of the 4 houses the particular port you were drinking is from, correct?
Yeah, that probably would be the first step. It's like the easiest one.
All right, so you want to just mention the 4 of them? so they can know
So
where to choose from?
we have from west from more feminine to more powerful. I would say we have Wars, then Grams, then Coben, then Dow. Those are the four major ones.
And so you're choosing which house, guys?
House.
And
Going
my
down.
question was non-vintage. So
Non-vintage.
no year, so it'll be a 10-year-old blend.
The color is very intense, very inky, opaque. It's super reddish, I would say, with some blue rims.
So
Let's make it
10-year-old
easier.
Tawny blend, Coburns.
It's not a tawny, it's a ruby.
Ruby.
The Ruby, Coburn's Tawny Reserve.
Holy,
No, it's not a
don't
Tony.
tell him if he's right or wrong. Just let him guess.
I would say Grams, actually.
I'm going Dows.
So
You said jammy, and you said and Grams has this opulence to it. So I would actually say Grams.
Grams, Andre, Dow from Bruno, and we got Cockburns from Pedro, Philippe, Diana.
Yeah, good. So I would go for Downs also.
Second for Dow. Diana, you on
he's
mute.
on mute.
First thing on my mind was Grams was in fact 6 grapes. I don't know why.
The 6
But
grapes.
Yeah, I
then,
thought of
Ruby.
that too.
yeah, 6
in-
grapes. I
But
don't
the
know
6
why,
grapes.
because it was like the ruby and was like, I don't know. It
And I
was
thought of
what
that
it,
too.
it
And I
went
have
on
to
my
say,
mind.
like that
and because
marketing,
it's,
the marketing part that you said about the bottle in the US and how underrated
Yeah.
it can be, like in the US, I thought like 6 grapes. 6
me
grapes.
too.
me too.
As he
But-
said, yeah,
I
the
don't
palate
know.
of the American people. So
I
and
can
said-
tell
and
you
I
right
said
now,
6
someone's
grapes.
right. Someone's already got it right. So
Yeah, my next point was gonna say, if I tell the name of the wine, you would guess that it was made by a limited number of grapes, but it's not. In fact, this is 6 grapes, and 6 grapes is a symbol of quality. So we have way more than 6 grapes. We have, as you know, in the door we have at least 50 something authorized varieties, and this one is made. Some parts of our old field blend, so we cannot guarantee which varieties go on it. And it's a very, very special wine for us, and way above the business aspect of it, in terms of communication, in terms of communicating what Portugal is about. And I have this conversation all the time with my colleagues that run other markets and also the domestic market, because I say, you guys don't pay enough attention, or you take it for granted, like 6 grapes is good, and you think that it's kind of, everyone knows that, and it's not true, you know. And for most of the houses, you have vintage port, then you have late bottle vintage, then you have the reserve ruby, which would be this level. For Grams, since 6 grapes became so important for the operation, and this is one of the biggest commitments of the family, it's like to guarantee that we have enough estates associated with Grams to supply this wine. This is the second choice inside of the house. So for Grams, we produce vintage port, then the second selection is 6 grapes. And it's interesting because when I was talking to my people in the US and they were briefing me for this meeting, they said, Rui, we should pick a wine with some heritage, some prestige. The panel is this and that. And I said, I think we should mention 6 grapes because we are going to have a few Portuguese people. And this is a wine that in the US, fortunately, is really well distributed. But I would say that in other countries, people still don't see how noble this wine is. And it's like, I usually say that better than my words are what you get from a glass. So next time that you have an opportunity to taste 6 grapes, you will see it's truly declassified vintage port, and it is an outstanding wine as an everyday port.
Yeah. It is for sure.
Well done, Bruno.
how cool
Good to
is
see
that? And Diana jumped in. Give Diana some love.
Thanks.
To the 6 grapes,
Lucky,
6
lucky.
grapes. I'm gonna wait for Pedro to like jump back in because he's not gonna get out of this last one with me. So
Pedro
And
was
Andrea nailed it immediately. It's like the jammy part of it and
Yeah.
that opulence. It's very Grams-like, absolutely.
Yeah, it's and also the part that is more the American palate and I thought it was like the 6 grapes. I know 6 grapes since my first trainee in 2003. So
Wow.
it was wow, yeah. So it was like a long time ago, and I was like, I had a colleague that was making a trainee in grams, and so I was like 18 years or something like that, and I was like trying the 6 grapes. So it wasn't so I know very much about this wine and about this house, and so, and also because of the connection, and yeah. And so I thought it was like a gram 6 grapes.
Well, guess.
I was just going to make a comment about what you were saying. That I agree with you that in Portugal we sometimes give in general less value to some of the wines that are highly popular as representing Portugal outside of Portugal. I would say that number one reason there is because we're spoiled, because we have so much choice available. The other thing is that I think, especially in the case of 6 grapes, I would say sometimes because Portugal is still a bit more conservative, and because we've lived with the port industry structure for so long, that anything, even how independent of how strong a brand is, and 6 grapes is such a strong brand, and of course grams, but I think there's a tendency to go to an LBV or to go to something that is classified in the standard structure instead of going for something like 6 grapes, no matter of course the strong brand. But then of course when some of the people try it, and they, especially in blind tastings, they try it and they say, how come I couldn't buy this before because I thought it was blah blah blah, and then in a blind tasting they discover this quality and they go forward and say, wow, I need to start buying this more.
And let me add one thing is also about port, because I feel really comfortable, and I like the idea of port, and because of Madeira as well, is that people in Portugal, we tend not to, how do you say it in Portuguese to, in English too, we tend to not to, dar atenção, to pay attention to our products, our main products, our good products. So if it is a good product, so like I like to say it in Portuguese, santos da casa não fazem milagres, saints from the house don't make miracles. So normally port, it's a kind of a star for us. Madeira, it's a star. So in Portugal, it's not a star. It's like seeing like not so much a good thing. It's like people like wines from the particular region. Like in Madeira, people don't drink Madeira. Okay, in port, they don't drink port. Sometimes it happens, and this is the thing that it happens also in our country, and it is changing because of ambassadors, and it needs to change even more. But the thing is that normally you get to be more satisfied as far as promoting your wine outside the country than inside of your country, because people tend to give more attention. They tend to like more and to appreciate more your wines. I'm talking about my wine. I export my wine, and all over the country, all over it is good. But then in Madeira, they don't like my wine. They hate, in fact. No, this is not a good thing.
They prefer poncha in Madeira. That's the problem. They prefer poncha.
Sometimes it happens, but also still wine. So no, not good.
How many people drink Ramisco in Lisbon?
Yeah, no one. That's why.
No one.
Not enough.
No, it's too. Yeah.
Saints from the house don't make miracles, and grams. It's a big brand. It's a strong big brand, a good big brand in Portugal. And sometimes people tend not to appreciate so much because it's big. It's not. It's a mistake. So don't do that. Please.
I would say that in recent years, I see more and more people from the US coming to visit us in Portugal, and then going back to the homeland and trying to find Portuguese wines. And the key aspect of it is, if they go to Lisbon or Porto, when they go back to the US, they try to find the wines that they had before. This is what we all do as consumers. If we go to Italy and if we taste in Sicily a Frappato or so, we come back and we try to find that wine. And I always say that if we want to make a wine relevant, particularly a still wine, because with port it's a category that's really well implemented. But for the still wines, if we want to make a wine relevant, of course, domestic market is really important, because it's not just because of the Portuguese people, but also all the consumers that come. And again, speaking about fine wine, of course, and they visit a few restaurants in the major cities in Portugal. They get great experience. They got a really good advice from a sommelier or from the restaurant owner. And once they go back to the US, that is the point of reference. So all the efforts in domestic market, I think on the long term, they pay back, absolutely.
Yeah.
One thing I would like to say about like port in general, it's like to in terms of education, and I try to do my best as much as possible. It's about like how, at least from our marketing in the US, how ports are stored in the store, at the restaurants, serving temperatures and glassware, and how, because a lot of people ask me, hey Bruno, I have this bottle of vintage, like how different is from the vintage from a colheita, like, and like for them like to understand that. And then like I have a colheita in the vintage, how I'm going to store them, how I'm going to place them out, how long can I have this bottle open. That's another thing that needs to be kept in mind in terms of how, because I kills my mind when I come across this store window and like there's ports like under, like right in front of the sun, or like you get to a restaurant and they're like room temperature, like boiling. I'm like, you know, but glassware, but even glassware, for instance, even in Portugal, I still go to restaurants and they're serving like in the Callis, and they serve like in a small glass to port. I'm like, that's the marketing perspective of Portugal as well, that everyone needs to work, restaurants need to work on that too. Because like, oh, Bruno, you told me like 2 months ago that you should be drinking like a port, like in a little bit of an AP glass, like in a white wine glass, like something like that. But I went to Portugal, they were serving like in a small glass and even a shot. I'm like, okay, you know, like, but that happens if you go to Paris and they serve in a rocks glass, like Pinot Noir. So, but yes, but serving and service of port and even Madeiras too, they need to be a little more.
Yes,
I think that
one thing that people are always impressed is that like I served the pork slightly chilled, and then they taste like, whoa, wait, this is cold. I'm like, no, it's let
chill.
it
Chill.
Let it chill.
The nuance.
Andre, that's the new hashtag. Let it chill.
Let it
Let it chill.
No, chilled.
Let it chill.
So, and then they enjoy more because if you have room temperature to warm port, it's yeah, so,
Yeah, you better run away.
Slightly chilled, it gets right into the zone. It gets into your nose. It's like, so.
I love it.
I would say that another point.
White wine, so we're kind of like going back, but
no, let's still a white wine.
Yeah, the little white wine love, little vino branco, right?
Vino,
so here, let me
vino
see.
in Spanish. Vino.
Leave me alone, okay?
You go, chat.
Let's see if you can see the color here.
It's white. It's white.
Confirmed.
It's fermented. It's fermented.
Not cheating, right?
You're on the clear.
Clear. No rim variation. Everything is very crystal clear on this one. On the nose, since I've been drinking mines for the last 2 hours, I've been getting a lot of complexity come up. I've gotten new notes over the last 2 hours. But at first I looked at the color and it was the aroma went straight to like a sweet corn, yellow corn. And then I got a honeysuckle lemon tea that's been brewed. Imagine tea in the tea bag. Oh, and then this is not like the Portuguese sliced lemon in hot water version. This is like a real. I didn't learn that until I moved to Portugal. I asked for lemon tea. They just threw a whole lemon in the water. I was like, what's this? This is like the budget version of lemon tea, but it was good. But I mean, a real Lipton lemon tea bag, which normally is also complemented with honey when you get the lemon honey flavored tea. Imagine it being brewed for over an hour. It has this same kind of concentration on the nose. On the palate, I actually start getting, and I'm just going to read because I actually tasted. Immediately, I got lemon curd. So now the texture went from bright lemon with honey to almost like a beeswax lemon curd flavor. On a ending, it started being like almost like a hazelnut. So I get, instead of being like a bright spring day, and I think that's what Andre described his white as, this one feels more like having like in the winter months or in the northern part of Portugal and you're drinking something lemon or having like a lemon pie, so something that's been warmed. There is the acidity is still pretty high, so there's no creaminess, but I can say that it feels like a lees that's coming from this. I did not mention the region on the website, but if you want to guess that, we can go there. I can tell you that it also is a blend and is a traditional blend from the area, but it is pretty dominant in one grape. So I think that's where more of the flavors are coming from. The secondary or fruit flavor that I got from it the most, besides lemon or cured lemon, was banana. So almost like a caramelized banana on it. And there is a hint of gooseberry. It's almost like if you are not familiar with, if you're not familiar with these grapes, it gives you the same kind of finish as a Sauvignon Blanc, which is very prominent on here. So not so much the pyrrhines, but more of that gooseberry flavor. And to be honest, I actually started making sure, I think that's one of the fruits that we don't traditionally eat here in the States, but they do carry it right in Whole Foods. So I make sure I have it here in the States because it is accessible to us. So I can be familiar with gooseberry when we hear it so often in Sauvignon Blanc. I don't know if there's any shots that somebody want to take. I didn't talk about acid level. Oh, I did. I said it's high in acid already.
Well,
Loureiro Vinho Verde?
Again? Sorry.
Loureiro based Vinho Verde?
No.
No?
yes, you said it was northern Portugal. I was gonna go to Vinho Verde, but then you said blend. So then I'm gonna go into Douro Valley. Maybe also go to Viozinho, Rabigato, Códega, kind of.
Sha, which vintage is it?
2017.
Okay.
Alcohol 13%.
And it's
13.
and it's blended. It's a blend. It's a blend.
It's a blend, but it's 75% one grape. So for the most part, that's
Okay.
what I'm guessing.
75% Gouveia.
How about if I tell you 10% Gouveia?
That's what I said. I said 10% Gouveia.
Those Zoom connections are never perfect, so.
Yeah, it's the internet. I gotta call my
Catchy
cable
connection, yeah.
Check your Wi-Fi.
So if it is that, it must be Douro, and it is maybe Viozinho and Gouveia. That's my guess.
Said T notes, right?
T notes for sure, but it's I don't know if it's the winemaker style versus this is it, So for me, which is different from when you guys are talking about these grapes, is because I'm tasting it for what it is. I don't know if this is like the winemaker's doing his thing, or if this grape is always, present like this.
Malvasia fina?
Tell me again.
Malvasia fina?
No, good call.
Because when you talked about you talked about Sauvignon Blanc, I was like, for me, maybe the grape that sometimes they tend to get some similarities when you taste of Sauvignon Blanc. For me in Portugal, it will be from the south of Portugal, not in the north. So I'm really.
That's why I went to Loureiro, because for me, Loureiro is
Loureiro, yeah.
That's
right,
why I
but
went.
this is on the finish. I was
but
only connecting that for the gooseberry that I get on the finish. It is more predominantly lemon, banana, tea, even yellow floral notes than it is this, and then gooseberry when I, actually savor it. So
Is it an unusual blend or
no, typical blend.
So if it is typical blend from the north of Portugal, and if you said that it has 15% or 10% of Gouveia,
then the other, what's the main grape?
The other one must be Viozinho or Rabigato.
Or Códega, but Rabigato or Viozinho. So
yeah, Viozinho is the predominant grape.
Okay.
And there's no Rabigato at all. So that's why I guess it was more about guessing, is it Rabigato or is it Viozinho at this point?
But I said Viozinho. I said.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I said
Viozinho as well.
No, I said Viozinho, really. I really said Viozinho. I mentioned Viozinho when I really mentioned Viozinho.
I said Viozinho from Vinho Verde. Come on.
No, I didn't say Vinho Verde. I just said Viozinho. I really said Viozinho.
So I went with because I love my brother so much. And so it's nothing like a brother-sister tag team.
Oh,
Ooh, yeah, cool.
Good. Masanita in the house.
The Masanita family, and that's, between Joanna and I always say, I always lead with Joanna on purpose. But and that other guy that she works with. But no, I think there's something special when siblings, or if you're growing up in a family that's winemaking, and you guys are partnering to put things together. And that goes back to the community idea that Andre tapped into earlier about, I mean, these guys are actually siblings, but in other cases, actually having that perspective of like, oh yeah, my next door neighbor is not my enemy. He's not my competitor. How do we actually push the Portuguese wine movement? You can still do your own thing. I can still do my own thing, but actually coming up with more creative ways to collaborate and then push it. I love the idea behind the Massanitas doing this combination of their skills. And even on some, he actually points out, that it says Joanna, made by Joanna, on the ones that's specifically her, that's her baby too. So those of you who may not know, but they're a young brother-sister tag team that's doing this, and they have wine being made everywhere, or I would say everywhere, but around Portugal. And this just so happened to be their Douro white blend. So
their Folgozão is amazing. The Folgozão, if you guys didn't taste the Folgozão,
it is.
It's pretty impressive.
We had that at the wine list at Seminarios.
But I love his perspective, like the way he's targeting the market. I think it's very, very refreshing the way he's doing things, like from his sexy to the Azores Wine Company, like everything, like, am I crazy about the whole wines? No, not necessarily, but I like what they do. And I think it's a great dynamic. I think it's very yin and yang, the two of them. And it's very fun to watch them on the Instagram lives. They did like the two of them together, like at 1 hour at home. And it was impressive, like, because they would be like, no, it's not that, like, it's more acid. No, you're totally wrong. It's more alcohol. Like, you're wrong. It's the parcel. Like, what are you doing? Like, shut up. Let me talk about what really happened. Like, I saw the vineyard and I said, like, we need to buy this vineyard. So it's awesome, like, to see that. Like, I think it's great. And people over here in the US, they love them because of that. Like, how,
Yeah, I mean, when you see them, were they speaking in Portuguese or in English?
Both.
Okay. And I think that's also for those who are out there, I think, because I understand, yes, your native language is Portuguese, and you're trying to get as many of us convinced this language will never die and we all need to learn it. And then here go a little plug for Pedro, not the Portuguese version, but the actual, not the Brazilian version, but the Portuguese version, But I think that, but the more information that's out there in English, you will get more people to believe in your wine. I mean, there's just
super important.
Everybody that I follow that's now doing lives, these producers, everything is in Portuguese. And I'm like, I know they speak fluent English. And I'm like, you trying to get more Portuguese people to buy your wine, or you just want more people to buy your wine? And I feel like you're missing the whole idea of this. You can touch the world with social media. Speak in English. I don't know how else to say
I reached out to a few producers, like, you guys need to do some videos, like, do something, like, but do it in English. They still did it in Portuguese. Some of them, they decided, like, to put like some subtitles. Okay, at least that. But that's why I do my lives in English, even with Portuguese winemakers of Portuguese songs and stuff. And then I get like the private messages, like, why you guys did it in English?
When we did the Portugal Wine Week,
Orgulhosamente Sós, it's done. Like that Orgulhosamente Sós, we have 15 years of that. Like, it's the whole world. Like, the whole world needs to. Yeah.
When we did the Portugal Wine Week, we had a few producers asking, oh, but it's in English. Can I do it in Portuguese? Well, if you want to do it in Portuguese, you can participate. Because it's the whole idea is it's called Portugal Wine Week, não Semana do Vinho Português, okay? So the whole idea is to talk outside of Portugal, to promote Portuguese wine outside of Portugal, to professionals, ambassadors, all of that. So, and yes, most people speak English. And actually, even the people who say they speak bad English, they speak much better English than a lot of the countries in general in Europe. So don't be afraid of just, tell your story. If there's something wrong, probably someone else in the conversation will help you. It's not a problem. It's more important to tell the story.
Right.
And
more
the
message is
there is an internal joke, because usually when we have meetings, if I do some sort of conversation by nature, I end up saying Touriga National and Touriga Franca. And all my colleagues, they push me back and say, "Oh, you should say that with proper Portuguese, Touriga Nacional, Touriga Franca." And I agree, but being in the US, if you don't say Touriga National and Touriga Franca, you are creating completely kind of a big gap with the consumer. So all the ways that you can find to interact with people and create comfortable areas of conversation, those are the key points to make people more aware and more comfortable around Portuguese wine.
Perfect, Ruby. That's like that should be like a slogan. I mean, I think you embody what we try to do as ambassadors. I mean, literally that's your job. And I think that for some of us who are more, obviously we're not attached to brands, so we can be a little bit more rogue with it. Bruno, Andre, myself, and Philippe. So whenever we are talking, we're not like, oh, we have to say this place is great. We don't have that kind of attachment. But there is this idea of like, how do we get the message across? And even something as simple as this, we're not teaching people English. The people we're talking to, we know speak English already, but they still are not making the content in English. And I feel like that's probably that's the reason why I can't push a video that someone else said on my Instagram, because most of my followers do not understand, even though I love that winemaker, I love that wine, they're not going to understand what that person just said. So at least,
I have so much stuff in English. I have so much stuff in Portuguese, like interviews and everything, but I'm not great with computers and everything. I wish I could put some subtitles in a lot of things, but I know people are not going to understand that. It's totally true. English is the universal language. So.
No, sometimes in the restaurant myself, my colleagues make fun of me. That's like, why you go to the table and you say Touriga Nacional? Why don't you just go Touriga Nacional? I'm like, because I want them I want that to sink in and they can reply. So I want to connect. So we need to have an ideal standard, Like I'm talking
grapes is difficult.
I'll put those words in English so people can understand.
I think grapes though, and I don't know how you all feel about that. Speaking about it is different in general, but the grape, just like a place, right? You're not gonna, there's Lisbon and there's Lisboa, right? But when we talk about places, we want people to, we're not going around saying Roma. Most places we're saying Rome, right? So there's things that have its name that can be actually translated. And then there's a way that you pronounce it so that people can understand. And I think that that's where the barrier is. We want people to understand how to say the grape. So I'm all on board with saying the grape in your native accent. Obviously, you're going to follow up with words in English to explain the area, the region of Terroir. But then there's no one's translating Pinot Noir, for example, right? Let's just use that, right? This is French, but now the whole world says Pinot Noir. There's no way we're translating that. But I think there's a way that we can still talk about it to get people to connect. So in this case, if you have a heavy accent, obviously all of you have, accents in English that everyone will understand. But if you have to play into that to be a common ground, I think the language is a starter to letting people in. And I think that's where you're going with that. I don't think we need a translation, but maybe playing with the accent so it can be recognizable as syllables in English for people to connect to. So
I think we need a New York dictionary for Portuguese grapes.
Dictionary, the New York accent or dictionary.
Don't want to go that way.
We could do something from the golden region.
Huh?
The golden region.
The golden region?
Now I'm lost.
Douro.
Yeah.
Yes, the green wine region also.
Oh no! Don't even start. Don't go for that.
No, but guys,
I'm assuming that I'm dealing with wine professionals, but at the end of the day, we're on wine freaks, so don't go that way.
No, I was saying thank you all. Philippe, if we can get a screenshot of everybody with their bottles in their hand, so we can close.
Let me get my bottle.
As usual.
Yeah, he always got his bottle. I don't know where I'm at and how my lighting is right now, but don't worry, I'll hide the SCP.
You see, the SCP was a great point of communication. Was extending a bridge.
Tell us when you got it, Philippe. You taking it?
So Rui, where's the cheese? Cheese.
You got it, Philippe?
Okay, guys, well done. Huh?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks again for hanging out. This is the longest session I've had. And
Thanks for putting it up.
I mean, there were so many moments where I wanted to jump in because I know that as Americans or people in UK or wherever you watching from, it kind of like probably went over your head. So you need like a commentator, like, he just mentioned this, you should write that down, you know, but in order for the conversation to keep going, I was like, you know what, I'll just come back and kind of do like a snippet or Cliff Notes version of what happened, because you guys did drop a lot of gems, whether it's Philippe mentioning about, and thank God he defined the goat in the oak barrel so that we all know what that means and what to look for when you visit in Portugal, and just understanding and breaking down Madeira versus Port or Porto, you know, so just understanding that itself, that's a session by itself, you know. So there's a lot of gems that came out of today, and it wouldn't be the same without all of you.
Let's do it again.
Thank you again.
Yes.
Hope to see you soon. Cheers to
Thank you, guys.
Portugal.
It's great.
And happy Freedom Day.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Too. Cheers.
Please
Thank you so
read
much.
the video.
All right,
Bye-bye.
thanks guys. Let me
Thanks.
try to, how do I end
It was
the
a great pleasure.
Nice